All right, welcome to lesson 4. Again, my name is Anu Vyas. These are a series of video lectures that are completely free, where I teach my parents about computers and the internet at a very high level first, but then we're going to get to a very specific level later on. So we'll start with concepts, but we'll build on those concepts. Last session, we talked about how websites store information, and I shared a table with you, and I fielded a couple of questions from my family to follow up. So I'm going to answer those questions. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share what I showed in lesson 3 here in lesson 4, and then we're going to go into a little more detail. So let me pull this up. And by the way, if you're wondering about Zoom and how to share your screen and how to deal with Zoom, we're going to talk about that later. That's going to be a bunch of lessons later. But at the same time, we'll get to that stuff. So we're going to get to things to make you feel connected with other people. So, all right. So this is where we left off. And you can see that, let's just say that this is a website. Let's say it's Facebook. And this website has 4 users right now, right? So me, I'm Anu, my mom, my dad, and my sister, whose name is Solano Vyas White. And we can see that there's basic information stored, like our first name, our last name, username, password, date of birth, date created, so the date our account was created, and the last time we logged in. And I just want to show you a couple, and we also talked about, like, look, hey, the way when you log into a website, you might provide your username and you might type in your password. And so on your end, it looks like a bunch of stars. But even when you press enter, it's not just transmitting a bunch of stars. What it's transmitting is whatever you typed. And then when whatever you typed is sent to Facebook's computer, Facebook compares what you sent to the password that it has stored for you. So if I successfully wrote in here, hello 123, then Facebook would say, well, look, his password is hello 123, and that's what he submitted when he was filling out this form with his username and password. So we're going to let him log in. And so here we have login successful. Okay, so I got a couple questions though. So what happens with this last login, right? Like, is this like does this table stay the same forever? Like, no, this table can be updated. And so let's say that I decide to change my username, or let's say I decide to change my password, because that's pretty common. Instead of hello 123, I'm going to change my password to, let's say, go Buckeyes. So I went to Ohio State for undergrad, and so I'm a big Buckeyes fan. So let's say that my password is go Buckeyes. So that's what I changed it to. But remember, it was hello 123. Well, how does the computer like change the password, right? Well, when you enter a new password, you say, look, I want to change my password. There are commands that are sent to this table to change it. So it would be, so let me give you an example. So maybe it'd say update this table and set password equal to go Buckeyes. So remember, before this was hello 123, but update this table and set the password to go Buckeyes. Well, who are we changing the password for? So if we just said update this table and set the password to go Buckeyes, we have to specify that it's for user number 1 here, right? Because we don't want to change the password for user number 2 or user number 3 or user number 4. We just want to change the password for user number 1, which is me. So you might see some, if you really delve into Facebook's computers and their lines of code, they might have something that says update this table and set the password to go Buckeyes, where the user or where the number is equal to 1, okay? And I put quotation marks around go Buckeyes. That's just how it is for when you're writing computer code in this situation, but I mean, this is really just a conceptual understanding. So hopefully you understand this, that if I wanted to, once I told Facebook's website, hey, I want to change my password and I want to change my password to Go Buckeyes, well then this is the line of computer code. So something like update this table and set the password to Go Buckeyes, where the number is 1, right? Where the number equals 1. And so it would find which row is number 1. And so that's this first row. And then it would say, okay, well, we're going to update this particular column, which is password. So we'll change that. Before it was hello 1 2 3. We're taking that out and we're going to put in Go Buckeyes. Okay. So same thing when you log in, right? Every time you log in, a table is updated on Facebook. So it would be like update this table and set, last login, right? So this column where it says last login equal to, let's say it's November 26th, 2020, right? So update this table and set the last login to November 26th, 2020. But guess what? We still have to put where the number is equal to 1, because we're just changing me, right? Because I'm the one who's logging in and not, my mom, my dad, or my sister, Sonal. So, so let's say that it's November 26th, 2020, and then I log in. Well, then the computer would generate this type of line of code where it would say, update this table and set this column last login equal now to whatever today's date is, where the username is equal to 1, or the user number is equal to 1, which is me. And so we'll change this, and so that line of code is executed, and then all of a sudden, the last login has now been updated. And this is kind of how it works. Now you might be wondering, well, how does Facebook store like all your friends and your profile pictures? And we're going to talk about that real soon. But I just want to let you know that all of that information is basically stored in a table like this. So I just included a couple of columns here, right? Your first name, your last name, username, password, date of birth, and so on and so forth. But we can certainly have more columns here. So we could have more columns such as, who are your friends? So let me go ahead and I'm gonna create another. Why don't we try to do that? Let's try to figure out who the friends are, right? So I am going to insert a column to the right here. Column to the right. Okay, and this will be friends. Okay, so who are my friends? Well, how does Facebook know who's friends with who else, right? Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so let's say I'm friends with my mom and dad, but I'm not friends with my sister. My sister and I are warring with each other right now. We're beefing. That's not actually true. My sister and I have a great relationship. But for purposes of this example, Sonal, you suck. I am not going to friend request you. I'm not accepting your friend request. Just go home. Don't want to talk to you. So my friends would be, let's say that I sent a request to my mom and my mom accepted it. Then all of a sudden, boom, number 2. So my mom is user number 2. So I have her as a friend. Now, as soon as I am friends with my mom, she's also friends with me. So guess what? She's going to have in her list of friends number 1, and number 1 refers to me. So let's say now, so again, just this number 2 in the friends column means, okay, I'm friends with my mom and no one else right now. Kind of sad. Don't really want to think about that right now and reflect upon that, about what that says about me and my personality, but I'm going to just kind of hurdle that uncertainty and move forward. My mom, I'm her whole world. So I am her only friend too right now. So right now she's friends with number one, which is me. And my dad's not friends with anyone, and my sister's not friends with anyone. Well, let's say that my dad and my sister decide to like say, you know what, we're gonna be friends with each other, but Anu and mom, we're just gonna like not be friends with them, right? So in this case, my dad is friends with my sister, who's number 4. So in the friends list, he gets a number 4. And my sister, well, she's friends with my dad. And so my dad is represented by this number 3 right here. So my dad, so my sister is friends with my dad, which is number 3 here, okay? And so, it kind of, and I'll do one more quick example. Let's just say that I'm friends with both my mom and my dad. So then, number 2 represents my mom right here. Number 3 is my dad. So when my dad and I accept each other's friend request, or, he sends a friend request and I accept it, then all of a sudden we update this table and we add the number 3 for my dad. And my dad, well, he's now friends with me. And so we update that. And then now this says that my dad, who's my dad friends with? Well, so we go to the friends column. First of all, we find my dad, which is, he's here in column 3, right? And then we look to the friends tab, because this indicates who he's friends with. And well, he's friends with whoever user number 4 is. Okay, well, that's my sister Sonal. And he's also friends with number 1, which is me. So right now, mom and dad, despite being married for 40-something years, are not friends with each other on Facebook. So right now, mom is only friends with me, right? Because mom's only friend right now is me, and Sonal's only friend is whoever number 3 is, which is dad. And so hopefully this gives you a template to be able to understand how like more complicated websites work. So like, I want you to take a second, and we're gonna cover this. So don't worry if you don't have the right answers, but have you ever wondered when you like look in your email on Gmail, like, or whatever email service you use? Well, it stores all sorts of things, right? It stores the sender, it stores what the date it was sent, it stores the subject line, it stores the body of the email. So you can begin to think about how all that information can be stored in a table. And maybe we'll cover that in our next lesson. But regardless, hopefully this gives you some framework for understanding how websites store information. Okay, and then one other question that I wanted to clarify that came up is, so I talked about like, hello, first name, and then, this would be replaced by Anu if I were the person who logged in, or it would be Sonal if it's my sister, right? But the question was like, well, what does first name really mean? Like, why do you have first name? Think of it like this way. In algebra, not to take you back to algebra, this is going to be basic algebra, super basic algebra, so do not freak out. So x equals 3 and y equals 4. X plus y equals, whoops, x plus y equals what? So if x is 3 and y is 4, well, x plus y is what? Well, we just add 3 and 4 because x stands for 3 and y stands for 4. So we just kind of substitute wherever x is right here. We just think, well, x is 3, so we're just going to put 3 here, and y is 4, so we're just going to put 4 there, and then we can determine that the correct answer is 7, right? So how does that work in computer land? Well, let's say that you go to Facebook, and this is, just like, welcome X, and remember, X is just a variable, to Facebook. The last time you logged in was Y. So welcome X to Facebook. The last time you logged in was Y, and your date of birth is Z. Now they don't just say that, they might say today's your birthday, right? Well, they know that because you've stored, it's stored your date of birth. And then maybe it gives it your list of friends. Your friends are, let's let's just say a list of friends. Your friends are blank. Okay. So, so basically the same thing applies. Well, when we say X right here, instead of calling it variable X, maybe I call it variable like FN, standing for first name, right? And and so anytime, actually, let me just type it out, first name. So welcome first name to Facebook, right? So if I'm the one who logs in, then when I log in, this is going to be changed to Anu. The last time I logged in was, instead of Y, let's give it a more descriptive variable instead of Y. Let's call it last login. Your date of birth is, instead of calling it Z, which was the variable that we talked about before, let's just give it, let's say it's DOB. So that's what it is. And then your friends are, I don't know, like, let's call it variable C before. But we're going to change the variable to friends. And I'm just going to put brackets. Actually, I'm actually not going to put brackets. I'm going to treat you like the smart people that you are, because in computer land, when you have like a $sign, what that means is that that's equivalent to like X in algebra. That's just supposed to stand for something. So when I put this $sign, it's like, okay, I'm describing it as the first name should go here, but this $sign really means it just stands for something. The last time I logged in, that's a variable. So just like in algebra, so I put a $sign, your date of birth is date of birth, and your friends are friends. Okay, so you log into Facebook and then it says, welcome to Facebook. Well, this is just going to all change depending on, again, who's logged in. If it's user number 3 who's logged in, right, then we're just going to basically go off of this field. So we're going to talk about this third field. So welcome first name. Well, first name, what would go here? Welcome Dad to Facebook. The last time you logged in was, well, let's go into login date, was November 25th, 2020. Your date of birth is, I don't have my dad's year here, but you can see he was born on March 24th. So it's just going to exchange, just like in algebra, your date of birth is March 24th. And your friends are, let's see here, 4 and 1. Okay, well, we know that 4 and 1 stands for Sonal and Anu. So actually, it's going to have other variables here where we know 4 stands for something, right? 4 stands for Sonal. So we're going to put in your friends are Sonal, and number 1 is Anu. So that's how you might be able to see, well, this table is what Facebook is storing in its computer, but you can see here is how it actually shows up on your computer screen in your laptop or whatever computer you have at home. So remember the first lesson I talked about how it was kind of like a restaurant. You're going into a restaurant and you're ordering something, right? And then the other computer is the waiter at the restaurant who's serving you up the food. Well, that's kind of what's going on here, right? You're saying, look, your computer is saying, hey, I want to reach Facebook, okay? And so then Facebook is sending you all sorts of information back. And some of the information, they have all of this information that they're storing that they can send back to you. So that's kind of how a website stores information about you. So hopefully that was a little illuminating. And if you're completely lost, it's all right. Just reach out to me if you have any questions. My email address is Anoo, A-N-O-O _ VYAS at gse.harvard.edu. You know what? I'll have like I'll put it on like maybe a website so that if people have questions, they can ask me. But really, I want to help you learn. This is part of a class, T550, Designing for Learning by Creating. And so hope you found it valuable. And if you have any questions, just please feel free to reach out. But all right, that's lesson number 4.